It's time for WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. Here's your host, Joe Castello.
The 51st Amalie Motor Oil NHRA Gator Nationals are this weekend. What's up, everybody? Welcome to WFO Radio as we get ready for the Gator Nationals. And I know everybody is on their way to Gainesville, unless, of course, you are already in Gainesville, the baby Gators, and then the Gator Nationals. I know a lot of people are out there running in the Lucas Oil Series, and they are getting ready for Gainesville. Now, on this edition of WFO Radio, we're going to hear from John DiBartolomeo from Drag Racing Edge magazine. Johnny D always helps us cross-promote the podcast. I hope a lot of our podcast listeners are also subscribers to Drag Racing Edge magazine. They do a great job. And in this edition of Drag Racing Edge magazine, there is an article on podcasting. And WFO Radio plays a major role in addition to many of the other podcasts out there in Drag Race Land, talking about Don O'Neill, Cam Ferret, Brian Loans, and others, Luke Bagacki, all featured because they cover a different subject in a different way. But Johnny D puts pen to paper, makes it all happen, plus a bunch of great stuff, including a tribute to one of the great champions, David Rampy, right there on the cover. You can find it by going to dragracingedge.com. Now, on our show, we do have some great sponsors that make it all possible. I do want to mention their names because without them, we are not able to do the show. Certainly not the way we do. Talking about Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Call Keith Jones if you're building an engine, a high-performance engine, LS, Coyote, whatever it is, Mopar, Chrysler, Nitro, ProMod, Formula One, IndyCar, or otherwise. They do it all. Stock Eliminator. They do it all. Total Seal Piston Rings. I've toured the factory. I've seen where it all goes down, and it is amazing. 800-874-2753. MagicDryUS.com, the official organic absorbent of the NHRA. Magic Dry. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. There is a new factory stock podcast up and available. Drew Skillman really brings the heat on the competition. Mark Powick is ready. Scott Libisher is ready. You hear from one driver from each manufacturer, but really it's all about explaining to everybody out there that if you have chosen a career that you do not like, it is not too late. Samtech.edu. You can become a high-performance engine builder, machinist, CNC programmer, motorsport EFI tuner. If you're a veteran and have the GI Bill available, they accept that. 713-683-3817. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Speaking of Gainesville, I have been invited to participate in the Dragster Adventure on March 27th. I'm going in there. I'm going to have a great time. It's going to be awesome. You can as well as they tour the country with the program. Follow my social media to see my experience at WFO Joe and at WFO Radio. But we're going to be talking a lot about it. If you want to drive a dragster at 130 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 3 seconds, call Frank. 866-480-7223. The best part about it, so convenient. You show up with literally nothing, just the clothes on your back, and you end up all suited up and racing. How cool is that? Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, frankhawley.com. And Rodax, coffeeandgrills.com. Marvin Rodax, hot sauces and spice rubs, everything good. Marvin Rodak does such a great job with his coffee, roasted fresh per your order, meaning everything is going to be so fresh you're going to be blown away. And everyone that we know that has ordered Rodax coffee on a regular basis, whenever it arrives, they open the box, they smell the aroma. It's just pure heaven. Plus, the hot sauces and the spice rubs. It does such a great job. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. That is Marvin Rodak. Plus, Drag Racing Edge and EV3 Drag Racing. And after it's over, I'll tell you how you can get some free WFO radio stickers. And here we go. Joining us now, he is the editor of Drag Racing Edge magazine. This month's edition got Rambo, David Rampy, right there on the cover. A big story about Rambo and Barry Davis. Plus, what is a podcast? Mr. John DiBartolomeo joins us now. Johnny D, how are you?
Oh, I'm great because I'm in Florida.
You are in Florida. All right. So normally we don't like to time stamp our interviews so that someone like 6 months in the future can listen and enjoy it just as well. But in this case, where are you? Let's talk about what we're getting ready for. It's okay. A little couple days early, but what's up? What do you got?
Gator Nationals, baby.
Yeah.
It's Florida. East Coast opener, whatever you want to call it. Sunshine, no potholes on the roads. What else we got? Palm trees, a little bit of a breeze. We're good.
Girls in bikinis. Maybe
Girls
not that.
in bikinis. Yeah, we're ready to go, man. Rock and roll.
A true Northeasterner. Well, that's my dad. That's my father. And I heard that for many years. And I would always say to my dad, Dad, I've never seen snow. I've never seen snow. And, I didn't get to see snow until I was a teenager. And he would always look at me and he goes, yeah, you want to see snow now. Wait till March when you've seen snow for months and it's all dirty and gross. He goes, do you know how old I was before I saw a palm tree? And I'm like, well, who cares about a palm tree? What are you talking about? You can't have a palm tree fight. But now, as an older person, I know exactly what he was talking about.
You start to appreciate it even more. I mean, I know your father, and your father saw some snow in his day, so.
Yes, exactly. But I thank him for his smart decision to move, or his decision. A lot of good stuff happens up there. I can't go to a Yankee game without taking a plane, so I get it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the start to the 2020 season, this latest issue of Drag Racing Edge magazine. And, the East Coast opener. To me, the season is a season until both coasts are involved, and that's what's about to happen. The Baby Gators and the Gator Nationals back-to-back weekends.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the one that everybody in the East Coast looks forward to. The entry lists get filled up faster and faster every year, it seems. Guys they want to come down here, and they've suffered through 2, 3, 4 months of cold, and although we haven't got much snow, but still it don't matter. It's cold. We don't see any palm trees up north. So everybody's just dying to get down here. And I mean, my first time was 1978, and I wrote it in a blog this week, and I couldn't wait to get here, baby.
Yes, and so interesting. I can't help but think I've been going since 1980. I was a little kid. I was kind of like a baggage traveling along with my parents. But the track is still in the middle of nowhere now. It's a decent drive from, Gainesville proper out to the track. And I can't imagine what it was like making those first trips out there early on to get to the track because, you're going through, pine trees and, who knows where you're going. And then all of a sudden, here's this amazing track.
It is. And I mean, I remember, coming out here my first year, 78. I mean, Route 225, I guess you'd call it Route 225, but I mean 225 out front here was nothing but a little 2-lane, out in front of the track now. I mean the township, I guess it's the township or the county, they've seen fit to widen that up and make this place even more exciting for the fans to get in and out. But it's like anything else. I mean, back then everything was small. We didn't have the grandstands that we had today. We obviously don't have the tower that we have here. It's different. It's different. But so is every other small town in America, just like that.
Oh, exactly. And I remember, the evolution of the traffic flow. They started to get some really severe traffic flow problems in the mid-1980s, and that's when they really, and I know that because I was stuck in it for several hours, and they started to change and really work hard on widening the roads, traffic flow in, ingress, egress, like a sporting event, like you'd go to an NFL game, and they really have gotten that down to a science. They've added all kinds of innovations, including the tower, the third tower. There was a tower over on the pit side for a while, and then they built the old NHRA concrete tower, and now this new modern future tower that you are calling us from right now exists. So Gainesville Raceway, certainly one of the great tracks out there. Let's talk about the addition that everyone will be getting if they go out to the Gator Nationals, and certainly in coordination with the Gator Nationals. You have selected Rampy for the cover. I think that is so fitting that David Rampy, we are paying tribute to him. And this is the first race that maybe we would have seen Rampy typically. As we open the East Coast, Rampy, he said he was retired. So what do you think? You think he's going to hold true to that?
No, because last week he was in Belrose racing. So, but I guess he's leading the Jegs points or whatnot, or he's up there in Jegs points. So he decided to go to Belrose to the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Divisional event last week and race over there with someone, I don't know whose car he was driving, someone else's car, because he sold all his stuff. So, I mean, he went out there, he told me he lost third round, but regardless, I mean, and I think we mentioned it in a story, I don't think he's ever really said the word retire. I think he just wants to walk away and just maybe enjoy life, spend some time with his kid a little bit more, and he's just tired of the grind. That's all. He's been doing it a long time. We've all been doing this a long time, and I can concur with him. The grind gets to be a grind. I said this a couple of years ago that, they say that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, that's kind of a lie because it still becomes a job. It still becomes work. But I know in my case, and I'm sure in Rampy's case over the years, it's still enjoyable to be able to get up and do something exciting and enjoy yourselves. And a lot of the story that even though we had Rambo on the cover, a lot of the story is his, I say partner, his crew chief, Barry Davis. Barry's the man behind the scenes, and it was just amazing to talk to him and see what he does and what he has done for 22 years. I think the two of them were together, and I don't think that either one of them thought about in the very beginning that it would ever last as long as it did, but it did, and they were successful. What's he got? He's got 100 wins? Does he have 100 or 99?
No, 100. Yeah,
he's got 100. That's right. He does. And so that's a lot of wins. That's a lot of miles under your belt. And, we have to give both of them credit.
Yeah, it is amazing when you put it in that context that, think of a band that would tour or any other traveling job, and, these two going over the road late nights, you got to get to the track. Everybody that's out there listening, you think about like the work that goes into being someone that races. Well, you got to get there. And this is, sportsman racing, so there's no corporate, no private planes, not that kind of stuff. Certainly the era that this was all going down in. This was all for the love. The other side of the coin, John, is that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, or every single solitary second will be spent working, one or the other, because you're so driven to do it. And these guys, they did it both. It depends. On the good days, it's a love. On the tough days, it's work. But to think of what they've done, I would want to step off the carousel for a little while as well.
And I think that's what David's looking at. I think he just, like you said, he wants to step off the carousel for a little bit. And his boy Chase has got a bracket truck. And I guess maybe he wants to spend more time with the boy. And that's understandable. And, of course, the boy is married now. So I don't think he's got any kids yet. But I'm sure that at some point, grandkids are going to come into play. I know mine's come into play last year. So it's pretty exciting.
Exactly. And also, another way to look at it is he is opening the door for a host of new talent to step on the stage and entertain us and go out there and show that they can do what he did. The door is open now. Who's going to try to drive through it? David Rampy, Barry Davis put together a team that won so many races, and I encourage everybody to go to dragracingedge.com and subscribe to the magazine, get it, and check out some of these great stories, and it'll be on property out there at the Gatornationals. I see you got something on the Studezilla. You talk a little bit about 200 mile per hour on a pro stock motorcycle. Let's dive in on that one. A lot of people thought once the 200 mile per hour barrier was broken that it would be Katie bar the door and a whole bunch of bikes would come storming through. A couple did, but there's still Denso money out there. Only 3 have done it.
Yeah, no, there's still Denso money, I think, for one more person. But regardless, I was the same way. I mean, I thought that, once around a junior went that 200 and then I think it was either Matt Smith or Matt Smith or
Eddie.
Andrew, not Eddie, who came through it. But nobody's really knocking down the door at 200. And that was part of my reasoning for getting that story done in this issue is I talked to a couple racers and, hey, why haven't we seen this? And some of the consensus is that things have changed and nobody can put a handle on what has changed last year. So who knows? I mean, this is a new year. I mean, we might see that last spot in the Denso Club filled, and we might not. Who knows?
I think we are. That's my bet. Like if we're having a little, what do we think is going to happen at the Gator Nationals? I think we see it here this week. Jerry has been knocking on the door. Ryan Ayler has been in the neighborhood. There have been a couple that have been knocking on the door. Andrew Hines, those guys they crazy want it. They want to have 2 bikes in there. There's 1 spot remaining. 8 will be honored from what I understand. 4 get money. And so that's a good story and good timing on the story. That's like editor job right there. Like, what story are we about to lose? Let's write about it.
I mean, it could be that once the Gator Nationals are done Sunday night, that that story's going to be useless. We will have seen the 200-mile barrier broken. So, but up until now, it's been a tough one to get through. Now, I know Hector Sr. said to us, and then we wrote it in a story, he said to me years ago before Junior went to 200, he said, we got so focused on going 200 mile an hour that we kind of lost ourselves a little bit in other areas. And he said pretty much we didn't give up on the 200, but we kind of put it to the side, figured it'll happen when it happens. And it happened.
It happened.
And this is the place to do it. I mean, where else? There's only a couple of circuits, only a couple of races on the circuit that have weather, that things just play into going fast. This track is one of them.
And with the new surface, I think that is a big part of it as well. We did lose our performance record, titles at Gainesville for a while. You think about, Amato, Bernstein, Garlitz, Bernstein, all the big records that were set, speed records at Gainesville. And then that went away for a while. Some bumps kind of came in, developed, who knows why. But the new surface that was put down last year before the 50th, from what I remember speaking with everyone, they all thought it was good. It was a good surface. Maybe it wasn't exactly like, Richmond or the new Vegas, but it was a really good, strong, flat surface. You could go quick and step on it. And I fully expect here year 2 that if we get the right weather, you know how Gainesville is, it could be hot, it could be cold. Like, you just don't know. One day of each, we might see some huge numbers.
We might. And like you said, I mean, it could be hot, it could be cold. I mean, you've lived in Florida long enough. You understand that, if you don't like the weather in Florida, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. And that's kind of what we have.
Yes,
but
exactly.
It's Florida. Can't beat it.
Unless he loves Florida guys. You know what? I'm going to put you together with a good friend of mine, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, who just got his real estate license the other day. He did. He told us on WFO, we were doing Hall of Fame inductees, and he's like, yeah, I just got my real estate license. I'm like, Don, you're 88 years old. You just got your real estate license? And he's like, this is all in the archive, everybody. You can go listen to this craziness that I'm telling you about right now. I go, Don, you're 88. You're starting a new career as a realtor? He's like, yes. And he's all excited about it. And so I was like, Don, why on earth would someone like you with all this stuff want to become a realtor in North Florida and go get your real estate license? And John, there's a class. You got to go to a class. You got to go get licensed.
Yep.
You got to take a test. Yep. You got to be in there.
Yeah.
There's a hurdle to entry, right? He said, I got so many friends from the Northeast that want to move down to North Florida where I am, and I know where everything is, and I know all the land, and I know everything about it. I figure I might as well become a realtor and be the guy selling it to him. So
I'm sure he steered a lot of people to that area without being a realtor. So why not take advantage of it and at least try to make some money off of it too?
That's what he said. And so if you go to Garlitz, you got to mention my name. So maybe I get a taste or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get a discount. Yeah, I'll wait for that.
Something, exactly. All right, so it's a great article and a great story. Also, though, you've delved into a world of the unknown called podcasting. What did you learn about this new thing, podcasting?
I learned that there are about 10 million of them out there. I originally, when we came up with the idea of doing a podcast story, it was, and yourself, there's a whole list of drag racing podcasts out there. And I thought to myself, you know what, let's put together a list and name the list. Well, we have a 98-page book. I don't think that would have been long enough. The list is just endless, and it's pretty amazing. There's some really cool stuff, and it's just guys wanting to talk and guys wanting to listen about drag racing, and I think it's really cool. I'm not necessarily I wasn't a podcast listener, I got to tell you that in the last year, I've listened to dozens of them, and I subscribe to them, and it's just, I don't know, it's different. I'm not a listen to music kind of guy. If I'm riding down the road, chances are the radio is either off or there's a music video or music tape or tape. We don't have tapes anymore or CDs anymore. But I mean, I'm not necessarily listening to the music. The music might be there, but it's more like noise as far as I'm concerned. But podcasts, man, lately, I almost can't wait to take a long trip so I can plug a podcast in and listen to it.
Wow. See, and that's exactly what people are experiencing. Let's face it. Let's just all be honest with each other. That as we gain experience and age, the musical tastes change. Our musical tastes, maybe they remain the same. Maybe we're real cutting edge, but certainly you only like 1 out of every 10 songs that they play, even if you do like it. You can only hear the stuff that you've liked your whole life so many times. You need new stuff, and that's where podcasts come in. It's just an endless river of potential content. Now, for you, the drag racer, you have featured, obviously, WFO Radio, and I really appreciate that. There's a beautiful photograph of our studio, me sitting in there in the magazine, but also Brian Loans from Fox Sports, Don O'Neill, Cam Foray, Luke and Jed, others, many of the podcasts that rolled out. And those are the drag racing podcasts. But for me, that's like Johnny D at work, right? You almost have to listen to those so you can hear potential breaking news. We've certainly had our fair share by accident here on WFO, right? Like people just tell you stuff and all of a sudden it's news. What about when you're not listening to drag racing podcasts? What are some other subject matter that you listen to or have listened to as you realize that on your mobile device, all of a sudden the whole world of subject matter is available?
Well, I mean, I've listened to a little bit of Joe Rogan stuff, but not a lot. Maybe because I'm not necessarily interested in what he has to say. I think one of the coolest podcasts is the Dale Earnhardt Jr. one, the Dirty Mo Radio. So that's pretty cool because it's motorsports. We still want to hear that all the time. I mean, I thought one of the neatest podcasts he had was when John Force was on. I mean, John Force broke the place up. So there's so many podcasts out there. Like I said, I mean, I would have loved to put a list in there and even talk to more of the podcast people besides the 3 or 4 that we listed there. You, Brian Loans, Luke Begacki, and Cameron Foray, and Don O'Neill. But there's just so many. I don't know how you would ever stop not talking to these people. Absolutely. It's a whole new world.
It really is. Well, it really is. The hurdle to entry is how hard do you want to work? And, do you have a place to do it? And do you have something interesting to talk about? And are you interesting? And do you have opinion that's worth listening to? And we know in drag racing, there's all kinds of characters that have that genuinely or believe that they have that and are willing to put it out there and then let the market decide. It is very interesting. Now, we on WFO have been doing it for over 10 years, and it's been interesting from the early days of being, not necessarily embarrassed to say the word podcast. But at the time that we started, podcast was the guy in his garage, him and his buddies, just kind of talking into a tin can and recording it kind of thing and putting it out for their 25 friends. And over that period, now it's like podcast, baby, because so many people have recognized that it's a legit, medium. And it's funny and fun to see that. And so many people kind of coming on board. The fact that they've got it in their pocket right now, their mobile device, for the most part. What do you think the saturation is for smartphones, like Android and iPhone? It's got to be 80%, 90%.
Oh, at least 80. And I was going to say 90%. I mean, everybody's got one. It's anybody who shows up with a flip phone anymore, you kind of look at the guy like, ooh, what is that? I mean, it's strange. It's kind of like the same way, we look at things and say, you have a home phone? Who has a home phone anymore?
Wait. I have a home phone. I'm not giving up my home phone, Johnny D. I'm sorry. You guys trying to drag us into the future kicking and screaming. Let me have my landline, please.
But it's different. And the other thing I learned with doing the story is that It's not as easy, and Joe, you'll appreciate this, I'm sure. It's not as easy as just, sticking on a recorder and recording something and uploading. Anybody can do that. But the quality ones, yours, and the other 3 or 4 that we listed, I mean, it takes a bit to do it. It's not as, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it's not as easy as it seems.
It's not. And to keep the great challenge for all podcasts is, everybody starts one. Starting one is easy. Maintaining one, right? It's just like everything. It's the maintenance that kills you. Like continuing on, there are weeks where you don't feel well, you're not up for it, there's something going on, you got to do it. You've got to do the podcast. Just like your column, John. I'm noticing it with, like, you've got a weekly blog that you put out every week. You got to do it, man. Otherwise, there are people that are waiting for it. It's like the cat outside that you start to feed, and now it's there. And, it's cold outside because you live in the Northeast and you haven't seen garlets yet. And you got to go out there and you got to feed that cat, man. Otherwise, it's going to starve. It's there because of you. You gave it food. It's there because of you. You got to feed the cat. Get your robe on and go out there and feed it. Some days you don't feel like it, or maybe you don't have anything going or anything interesting or whatever. You got to do the podcast. That's what the audience wants, and that's what separates.
You gotta get up for it. No matter what, it has to be. In my case, my blog, we do it once a week, or I do it once a week. It comes out on Wednesday mornings. It hits, and you just, like you said, I mean, some weeks you get up and you go, and it's the same way in the magazine. I mean, I got to tell you that there's some issues that all of a sudden I think to myself, oh my Lord, what are we going to put in this issue? Your mind just goes blank, but it's got to be done. So you get up and you do it, and you find a way to do it. Sometimes I start to panic a little bit because I don't know what stories we're going to put in the next issue. But sometimes I sit back and I go, you know what? It'll come. It comes to you no matter what. And you get the thing done. And I'm sure the podcast, and I know my blog is the same way. There's days, and as I said, it hits on a Wednesday morning, and I try to write it Monday, Tuesday, to get it going. There's some weekends where I'll go, oh my Lord, what am I going to write about this week? But come Monday or Tuesday morning, I mean, you find something. It's just something that you have to do. It's like anything else. It becomes a job. Yes, you'll love it, but it becomes a job. It is work. And I'm sure that the podcast is the same way.
Now, the magazine also has a story by John Asher, and very appropriate, about the changing face of publishing, because we did see many of the automotive-centric magazines, go under last year or recently. And it is terrible, but I think it's a sign of the changing market. You guys are still going. I can't help but think that there is still a market. That cat that I described was a reference to the audience. They want automotive magazines, and I really think that opens the door for privateers such as yourself, Drag Racing Edge. But just touch on that a little bit, how we're seeing that market shift from paper to digital. You guys attacked it head on.
Well, first of all, I think that the magazines that died last year, the Discovery, Motor Trend, 10, whatever you want to call that organization where they killed 19 magazines, I'm not so sure that part of the reason behind killing it was the business model of the investment group, if you want to call it that, that the business model was sound enough and it just didn't survive. I do know that, and I've said this for a long time, that in order for, and I've seen magazines come and go over the years, as we all have, but I've always said this, that in order for a magazine to survive, the ad people and the editorial staff need to work together. And when you don't work together, things happen. Things like that happen. And I've seen that happen with magazines way in the past, Drag Racing USA, Superstock, and Stock Illustrated. John Asher, who penned that article, and I chose him to write it because he's been in the business for 50 some odd years, whatever it is. He was around during those days, and it was the days when the editors and the ad people didn't necessarily have to work with one another. The editorial people wrote what they wanted to write, and the ad people were just assigned to sell the ads. It's not like that anymore. It's different. When you open up a magazine anymore, and I hate to be the one to say this, but usually a story will be tied to an ad. And that's the way the world works anymore. If you open up USA Today, you open up Sports Illustrated, any of the other magazines out there, usually any of the bigger stories, the ad people tend to use that story to help sell some ads. Is there anything wrong with that? No, not really, because let's face it, the ads are what makes the magazine go around. We're very lucky in that we have a lot of subscribers. And for anyone that wants to subscribe, dragracingedge.com, you can subscribe very easily. But it's it's a two-edged sword. You need subscribers in order to get ads, and you need ads in order to keep the subscribers going. So it's just a game that you have to play. But more than anything else, the world is changing. Yes, there's more digital stuff, but I still believe that drag racers today, and they just started making noise here, but drag racers today still want to be able to hold a piece of paper in their hands and read it. And that's kind of what we hope to give our readers. You know, small magazines, niche magazines are still alive. You go into any doctor's office and you sit there and you see magazines like Chicken Monthly and Agricultural Today, and there's a lot of niche magazines out there. Drag racing is a niche.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And this interview brought to you by Drag Racing Edge Magazine, dragracingedge.com, cross-promotional partner of WFO Radio. Hey, that's the way it is.
Checks in the mail.
That's the way it is. All right, John, let's ask one more thing about, obviously, everybody should become a subscriber, and there's so many great media outlets in drag racing, and the fact is that you guys all, there's all a little bit a different angle to all of them, just like you said with the podcast, right? Everybody is kind of attacking it in a different way, no real duplication, which is great. I'm looking forward to seeing that carburetor plate tuning article as well. Great artwork, Kenny Youngblood of Steve Torrance in there, and that's where I want to get your final thought as we start to hear some cars in the background, which is great. Everybody's headed to the Gator Nationals. They get to hear some cars on track as Johnny D is in the Gainesville Tower. Let's talk specifically about Torrance. Tough conclusion to his back-to-back championship with one moment of, kind of out of control pushing Cam Ferret, right? I immediately moved beyond it because that's what happens in athletics. Sometimes guys lose their cool for a second, but it doesn't change the character of who they are, what they are, etc. And the guys did win back-to-back championships. Start of the year, Capco team elects to sit out a race for, reasons that they have made public now. They kind of hadn't gotten on the same page with NHRA about all of that. Second race, they show up, he wins it, right? And he's back, and things are back, and he is now going for 3 championships in a row. Just give me your assessment on the status of Torrance within the sport right now. What is he doing? What's going on when you, think about him in relationship to top fuel champions of the past?
He ranks right up there with the best of them. He has to. And forgetting his little foray last year at the World Finals, which
I believe that was foray.
He had a lot of pressure at that point, and sometimes pressure makes you do things that you don't appreciate, but it doesn't take away from the fact that those boys sure know how to win races.
As indicated by Arizona, right? They got the whole off season off. Everybody gets a head start on them. They all get a chance to go run Pomona. They come out and they just win. That was, to me, very impressive.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, both him and his father. I mean, his father went to the semis and had to race each other in the semis. I mean, that team just, as I said, they know how to get down the track. Alan Johnson, Alan's not working with them anymore, but, Alan Johnson was another one of those guys who knew how to get down a racetrack. And the Capco boys with Hogan and everyone else, they just seem to know how to win. I mean, how do you bet against those guys now?
Yeah, Hogan, protege of Garlett's, so maybe he's got a real estate career coming up at some point in the future as well.
There you go.
But who
there
knows?
You go.
Johnny D, I appreciate you coming on the show. I really love the article, Drag Racing Edge Magazine. Hopefully everybody checks it out. Hopefully, all of the podcasts see the listenership go up because the magazine folks realized, like, hey, man, this is a good supplement, right? You can listen to drag racing while you're driving. You can't read a magazine while you're driving. You can read a magazine when you're sitting on the couch. There's different times for different things. I think it's great. I really appreciate what you've done. I look forward to seeing you at the Gator Nationals. And are you racing as well?
I am not racing at the Gator Nationals. I am racing the divisional event here.
The Baby Gators.
I get way too busy at national events for me to race. And I used to be able to do three
Except
and
for
four.
Norwalk.
And I say I'm a king of multitaskers, but I can do 3 and 4 jobs at once. So I still do the 3 and 4, but maybe only 1 or 2 of them come out right. So things are changing.
Exactly. Except for Norwalk, where you are the king of Norwalk.
I wish that was from your lips to God's ears. That's all I can say.
I don't know. You've won like 2 in a row, have you not?
I've won 2 in a row. I've won 3 of them out there. I mean, I just love those ice cream scoops.
He's the king of Norwalk. All right, John, we'll talk soon. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on, Joe. See you in a while.
There he goes, John DiBartolomeo, editor, Drag Racing Edge magazine, Johnny D. It's got Rambo's car doing a wheelie. Hail to the champs on the cover. And yes, what is a podcast? Right there on the cover. And I did, speak with John about it a couple of times. Got some quotes in there and really hoping that we can welcome some new listeners. The first time everything involved in drag racing, right? The first drag racing fan, the first time you go to the track, the first time you pick up a phone and find a podcast, then you are more likely to do it in the future. You got to get them to do it the first time. And hopefully Johnny D has inspired some of the readers of the magazine to try the podcast. And you guys, the listeners already, if you don't already get Drag Racing Edge magazine, subscribe. It's very reasonable. That's the best thing about it. It's incredibly reasonable. Go to their website, dragracingedge.com, all kinds of good stuff. All right, everybody, more WFO to come. We're getting ready for the Gator Nationals. It is Gator Nationals week. Everybody's headed to Gainesville. We're going to have a whole bunch of content. The archive is loaded. You want to hear that Big Daddy interview? Just go into the WFO archive. Well, how do we get to the archive, Joe? Well, if you subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud, which are all apps you can get on your phone, you just scroll down. If you're sitting in front of a desktop computer, which nobody is, I don't think, go to WFOradio.com. And you can go to WFOradio.com from your mobile device, and there are literally many different options of how to get the podcast. And you select the Big Daddy one, and there'll be these little buttons beneath it. One will say SoundCloud. You press that button, that'll get you to SoundCloud, and it'll just open up there. And then you just download that app, or Apple, and you're subscribed, or Spotify, and you're subscribed. Those little oval buttons, you press them. If you're a Google guy and you want to use the Google Play feed, there's Google. It's all there. Pick the show you want. Then right below it, there's all these little buttons. You press the button however you want to do it. Stitcher, some people use Stitcher. Stitcher is a little slow, honestly. Meaning it takes a little, like a couple hours for the new show to get to Stitcher when it gets to Spotify immediately. And that, I think, is programming. But all right, everybody, that's going to do it. WFO stickers, I promised you that I would tell you how to get some WFO radio stickers for free. Here you go. You want some free WFO radio stickers? Well, then you got to pay. No, all you have to do is put a self-addressed stamped envelope together. So it's going to cost you a few stamps, right? You address your envelope to yourself and put it inside another envelope and, stamp it. Self-addressed stamped envelope. I've found myself having to explain this because nobody sends letters anymore, and it makes sense. Nobody sends letters to anybody. Nobody knows what a self-addressed stamped envelope is anymore. 2 envelopes, one with your address filled out to you and postage on it, and leave it open and put it inside another one addressed to me. And that way, when I get the envelope, I open it, I see yours, I stuff it with stickers, I seal it up and send it. I have very little busy work to do. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, like cutting and pasting and sticking, all that stuff. Castello Media /WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. Simple as that. Didn't get that? Just click rewind. If you had the WFO radio app, you could back up 15 seconds. All right, I'll do it again. Castello Media, WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848-353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. And I'll send you some stickers. 1 stamp's usually good for 4 stickers. 2 stamps, I can fit a lot more in there. Just saying. So what's that cost you? It costs you like $1.20. That's not so bad. Not so bad. And hey, big thanks to the sponsors who make it all possible. Talking about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, where I will be attending the Dragster Adventure at the end of March. You should go on the Dragster Adventure yourself. FrankHawley.com, samtech.edu, Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology, MagicDryUS.com, and Rodax, coffeeandgrills.com for gourmet coffee. If you've never tried it, you need to try it. Simple as that. All right, everybody, more Gator Nationals preview coming up.
This is WFO Radio.
I love WFO Radio.
Oh, yeah.
The views and opinions of the hosts, guests, or callers do not necessarily reflect that of the station ownership, advertisers, or agencies.
Drag Racing Edge. That's the magazine. Subscribe online. Get the issues, $24.95. Keep up with your favorite sport, whether it be NHRA Mellow Yellow, Lucas Oil Series action. They cover drag radial. They cover it all. Drag Racing Edge magazine. Hey, everybody, how do you start your day? You started off with a little coffee. And do you want something cheap and vacuum-packed, garbage? You want to pay for a retail coffee? It's like $11. Or do you want something that is good, like Rodax, coffeeandgrills.com? Join the Rodax Army. WFO users and listeners know all about it. Over 40 grades to choose from. This is roasted fresh per your order, not to mention hot sauce, spice rub. You got to call Marvin, get on the phone line, or go to the website, RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. Check it out. That's RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com.
Start your education at full speed with the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Accelerate your career as a high-performance engine builder with classroom instruction and practical hands-on experience in the lab, on the dyno, and at the track. In addition to the block, head, and CNC programs, SAM now offers motorsport, EFI tuning, and an Associates of Applied Science degree. And SAM is a military-friendly school, approved to train veterans and other eligible persons under the GI Bill. Start your education at full speed. Go to samtech.edu today.
Hey, engine builders, Total Seal Piston Rings are the leader in ring seal technology, and they go out of their way to help their customers and will make custom sets for any specific piston you might have. Customer service, top notch. Made in America? Absolutely. They're located in Phoenix, Arizona, and they've got everything it takes to develop the world's best piston rings. Give them a call at 800-874-2753 or go to TotalSeal.com. You're working in the shop, you've got spills, you've spilled oil, it's everywhere. What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do, but that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do it is to go to MagicDryUS.com and order the official organic absorbent of the National Hot Rod Association, Magic Dry. It's lighter, it absorbs more, it's better for the environment. It's made out of coconut. It's made in America. MagicDryUS.com. They've got spill kits that include everything you need for a regular, normal household spill, all the way up to a large industrial spill. We always say, if you've got a cat, get Cat Spot. If you've got a shop, if you've got a factory, if you've got a spill, call Magic Dry. That's MagicDryUS.com. Attention adrenaline junkies, Frank Hawley's Dragster Adventure is calling you. Rides available for the 2020 season. Go to FrankHawley.com. They're coming to a track near you. It makes a great gift, and you know the holidays are coming, whether it be licensing for Super Comp, Super Gas, all the way up to Top Alcohol. They can do it. But if you're a drag racing fan and you've always imagined what it might be like to drive a dragster, to accelerate 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and run 10s in the quarter mile, give them a call. 866-480-7223, FrankHawley.com, the Dragster Adventure, and tell them you heard it on WFO.
This is WFO